Natalia, how is this program supporting you in your new chair role?
Some of the things I've learnt, especially in my role as chair, is the importance of setting the agenda, because that governs how the meeting will run. Making sure that you've got the right items in the right order on the agenda and having specific time slots allotted to each item. That way, when you send it out well in advance to your board members, people have a sense of what's coming up and they know how much time is being allocated. So that addresses issues that can come up often of spending too much time on one thing and not enough on the other agenda items, and then that clogs up your next meeting agenda. The second point that I've learned is also about learning how to pull out the best from your board members, because that's quite important in the role of a chair. You have different personalities, different experiences sitting around the table, different ages, different cultures, and some people may be more reserved than others, for instance, but they usually have, those nuggets of insights or knowledge that may not come out unless you specifically probe or develop that sense of comfort so that they can be more open and sharing with what they've got. And thirdly, the importance of relationships with all of your board members. There's more work than just at the board meeting, spending that time outside of board meetings and in between board meetings as well, getting to know them, what their drivers are, how you as a chair can better support them in their role as a board member so that they bring their best to the table, and collectively as a board you all make great, well-informed decisions.
So Natalia, how has the mentoring relationship been so far, considering you're new to a chair role?
It's been a fantastic experience. I've been privileged to have the guidance of a wonderful, experienced mentor called Prabha. It's created a safe environment where I can ask the hard questions that I might not be comfortable asking someone else, knowing that my mentor has a vast array of experience. So I can ask what might feel like dumb questions, but they're not dumb at all. And importantly, it's been encouraging for me, because sometimes when you've got feeling like the imposter syndrome, am I doing this right? Did I do that? Oops, what should I do to fix something? Having the support and encouragement of a mentor whose experience really does make a huge difference to me.
Awesome.
So how have you approached your mentoring sessions, and did you plan in advance what you were going to talk about?
I approached the mentoring session in two ways. If you remember, Natalia, when we first met and introduced ourselves, we had a really good conversation on how do we want to structure this, or do we want to keep it as open as possible. And then we discussed probably there are some topics that you would like to cover and you would want some guidance on those specific topics. And we said, okay, then let's discuss a time and a suitable date that we could meet every month, once a month. And we also discussed on the key topics that you really wanted some support on. And I thought that was a really good structured way of approach. So I would say, yes, it was structured in some ways. And it was mutually done. Both of us were comfortable with what we came up with. And also, I think the other thing that I really liked about it is we kept it open and we kept it nimble to be able to adapt to real situations that either of us could bring to the table and actually discuss about it when we met again. So I think that's a key part of that relationship as well, where we felt safe to be able to bring something and discuss it openly and have some thoughts shared as well. So I quite liked the two approach. One is that structured and having some sort of an idea of how we're going to go with this whole program, but at the same time having that openness to be flexible as well. Natalia, I wonder, how does this differ from any sort of professional training you've had in the past?
Well, for one thing, professional training is usually quite topic specific into whatever industry that you happen to be working in. The difference with this training is it's not only just governance focused, but it's actually quite broad, so you learn a lot of transferable skills and not just technically specific content that is in a professional setting. I really enjoyed how we were given prep material ahead of even meeting our mentors so that we could hit the ground running once we met with them. They gave us tips and guidance points about how to structure your meetings, what kind of things you could talk about. And also the difference is that it's live, real life training, real time training, in terms of I knew once I'd built up the rapport with you, with my mentor, I knew I could call on you outside of our formal scheduled meetings to ask a question about something that's come up live for me in a governance sense, like, Prabha, how do I approach this? This has happened in my board meeting, I'm not sure how to approach it. And it may not have been scheduled for our upcoming meetings, but I knew I had that reassurance that I could ask my mentor for real life advice at the time it was needed. So that's a big difference from professional training. You don't necessarily get that, you just get set modules. But that's the third benefit of this training as well. While you have the mentoring relationship, you also get to complete modules with IOD online, so that you also walk away with some professional certification. So that's been all round awesome.
How wonderful.
So mentoring is about ako, or two-way learning. Can you give us some examples about what you've taken away from the mentoring relationship so far?
A lot, Natalia. The two-way learning has been immense, I would say, because first of all, you know, when you are in a governance setting, you have diverse people around you, and you've got youth, you've got, you know, with people from different sectoral background or technical expertise. And for me, I've always wondered about the youth perspective, because I am from a different generation, and so it was really interesting to understand how you have taken a chair role, and as a youth, how you have seen the world, and how you have identified some of the things that you have managed in your situation when we talked about specific areas where you wanted more support or different thinking, probably, how to approach. So for me, that was very powerful. That was a key learning experience for me, to understand a youth perspective, and also an ethnic youth or a youth from a diverse background is even more interesting, because you're also bringing a different flavor to that thinking. So for me, that was another learning for me, big learning for me, because usually we are in a specific space where governance is this, but actually it's not that. There's so much more to it when you start looking at it with an open mind and understanding the youth perspective. So that was a good learning for me. But also, I think in general, the conversations we are having when we are having our sessions brings us some sort of robustness to the thinking, which I think, you know, sometimes I may not wear that hat and think like that, and I will be thinking from a completely, you know, technical point of view, but you will say, how about this? You know, I'm dealing with some of these people who are probably don't understand governance, and so I need to come back to that space and say, okay, this is how we deal. So there's always a learning in every conversation I've had so far with you.
That's great.
Natalia, what has been the value for you in connecting with other mentees during the midpoint session?
What I took away from connecting with other mentees in the program is, one, shared challenges. Often you're sitting there as a chair, relatively new in the role as a chair or co-chair as it may be, and you're wondering, did I approach that right? Is anybody else experiencing the same challenges or, you know, opportunities as they call them? So it's refreshing to be able to have a frank and open conversation with the cohort. I really love that cohort model where you come together and you share your challenges, bounce ideas, share ideas of how others have approached the similar challenge or opportunity, and also just sharing the laughter as well. Yeah. So it doesn't always have to be serious and about governance, but through learning and sharing through some of our own challenges, we uncover some commonalities between us, personality-wise, or as it may be in my case, I met with a fellow mentee and we happen to have a workplace in common, previous for me and current for her. So you find all sorts of other random connections, not just through governance. So we've got a new group of friends, and hopefully be for life. We can share professional tips with each other, but also become friends.
Natalia, during the midpoint session, you heard from some of the mentors as speakers. So what were your key takeaways from them?
There were a few great gems, lessons learnt, and also reminders from the panel of mentors. One of which was, it may seem boring at times, but it's actually critical, is regularly reviewing the risk register for the organisation that you're on the board for. Too often we can get complacent and lax, and then when emergencies or crises happen, what do we do? So the importance of a risk register, having the appropriate mitigations in place, but importantly, reviewing it often as a board. One of the other takeaways I took from the panel was, one of them said this great quote, that time is precious. Time is also a form of currency. You only have so much of it, but you need to be the one holding the clock. So I remembered that quite well. And also the importance of values, personal, but also as an organisation, as a board, whatever you agree to, and making sure that's re-emphasised time and again so people have that front of mind whenever they're making the decisions. And lastly, a takeaway from me was making the meetings enjoyable. Do people enjoy actually coming to board meetings? Too often you see through movies or on TV, online, they seem so serious.
Yeah.
But really the kaupapa, the work, the mahi that the board is there to carry out really does implement and affect others. So the importance of making sure that you actually are passionate and enjoying what you're doing, that you turn up with purpose and commitment to carry out the work is critical, I think.
Yeah, wonderful, isn't it? So many good words of wisdom. Apparently it is so critical, especially the fourth point. You have to come with a passion. It is really important, and you know what you're there for. And risk register, I can't say more to it at all, because that's the last thing that we generally look at until we have a problem. And we only open it when there is actually a big risk that we are dealing with. So beautiful words of wisdom.
So Prabha, how will this mentoring program help you to govern better?
This mentoring program has really given me a lot of insight into, again, the youth perspective, and understand the diversity sitting around the table, and making sure that they have a key voice, and their perspective is very important for us to make an informed decision. Usually at board meetings I have seen that youth are quiet, but also enabling them, empowering them to actually speak up and be able to participate in the conversation is very important. And I would do it for every single one of the members around my board table, but I will now make a conscious effort to encourage our youth member to participate as well. So it has helped me immensely in that space.
Wonderful.
And how about you, Natalia?
How this program has helped me to govern better is I've learnt some technical pieces that I may not have considered before. I've heard pearls of wisdom from you as my mentor, having a lived experience, because theory is one thing, you can read as many textbooks as you like, but it's totally different when it comes to application. So having the benefit of a mentor who's actually been there, done that, and can share what's worked and what hasn't worked has been really awesome. Relationships are really key, they're critical. That's something I knew but was re-emphasised, and I will make sure that that is something that I carry forward. And also passing on the knowledge. So I've absorbed a lot, but for me personally, I also want to make sure that I share that onwards. So that's part of me, passing on what I've shared, what I've learned myself, so that more people can benefit from this program.
Brilliant. Awesome. I've done a good job, I think.
That was a great answer.